Okay, let's jump into this. You've brought us a fascinating target, something known for being, well, a bit tough for amateur astronomers.
That's right. A really beautiful deep sky object, but one that definitely tests your skills and your gear.
And June seems like a decent time to try. Stable conditions, maybe?
Yeah, exactly. Often you get that steadier air, especially for things higher up in the sky, which this one will be. So it's a good moment to tackle it.
This is Skyscope. Challenging targets, real observing.
All right, so spill the beans. What's this challenging object we're talking about?
We're looking at a planetary nebula called Abell 39. Maybe not one of the household names, but quite special.
Abell 39. Okay. And it's a planetary nebula, so a dying star's leftovers, basically.
Precisely. It's the ejected shell of gas from a sun-like star in its final stages. It's quite far away, too, around 6,800 light years.
And it's from the Abell catalog. I know that one's got some tricky objects.
It does. George Abell cataloged many large, often very faint planetary nebulae. And yeah, pronunciation-wise, it's Abell. So Abell 39.
Abell 39, got it. You mentioned large but faint, which always sounds like a bit of a puzzle.
It does, doesn't it? I mean, physically, it's huge. Maybe 2.5 light years across. Think about that.
Well, that's enormous.
But because it's so far away and that light is spread across its whole structure, its surface brightness is very low. What we see is this incredibly delicate, uniformly glowing ring.
A ring. And you said it's very symmetrical.
Almost perfectly spherical, yeah. It's quite remarkable, actually.
That symmetry must be important scientifically.
Astronomers love it for that reason. It's considered almost an ideal laboratory for studying how these nebulae form and evolve, simply because it's so, well, neat and tidy compared to many others.
Like a textbook example. And there's a star in the middle, the one that created the nebula.
Yep, the central star. It's a white dwarf now, the burnt-out core of the original star.
Can you actually spot that star? Or is it lost in the glow?
You can see it, but it's tough. It clocks in around magnitude 15.5.
Whoa, okay. So that requires pretty dark skies and a decent telescope, I imagine.
Definitely. We're talking probably 10 inches of aperture, maybe more, and really good, clear, dark conditions. But honestly, the main event is the nebula itself, that faint ring.
Okay, location. Where are we pointing our telescopes in June?
You'll want to look high up in the south. It's officially in the constellation Hercules, but it sits right near the border with Ophiuchus.
Hercules. Coordinates for the go-to mounts.
Sure. It's at right ascension, 17 hours, 27 minutes, and declination is plus 27 degrees, 40 minutes.
And when's the best time to view it? Highest in the sky.
Right now in June, it reaches its highest point, usually around 1:00 a.m. local summertime, MESZ for instance. But, always best to check a star chart app for your specific night and location.
You mentioned the faintness. The overall magnitude is 13.7. On paper, that doesn't sound impossibly faint.
No, it doesn't. But that 13.7 magnitude is all the light gathered together. The killer is the low surface brightness.
Because it's spread out.
Exactly. It's like taking a dim light bulb and trying to illuminate a huge area. Each little patch of the nebula is incredibly faint. That's why aperture is king here. You need that light gathering power. At least 10 inches, maybe more, is recommended.
And I guess atmospheric conditions are even more critical than usual.
Oh, absolutely paramount. Forget just clear skies. You need excellent transparency, no haze, no high humidity. Good seeing helps, but transparency is probably more critical for detecting it initially. However, poor seeing, that sort of atmospheric turbulence, it'll just make this low-contrast object shimmer and basically disappear. So avoid nights with bad seeing. High elevation also helps get above the worst of the gunk.
Right. This brings us to filters. The notes really emphasize these UHC or OIII filters are essential, it seems.
Non-negotiable, really, especially from anywhere less than perfect dark skies. Even from dark skies, they make a huge difference.
How do they work their magic on something like Abell 39?
Well, planetary nebulae like this shine really strongly in specific colors, specific wavelengths of light, mostly from ionized oxygen, which is what the OIII filter targets, and also some hydrogen beta and oxygen lines that the UHC filter lets through.
So the filter blocks everything else?
Pretty much. It blocks out sky glow, light pollution, moonlight, all the stuff that washes out faint details. But it lets the nebula's own light pass right through,
making the faint nebula stand out against a now much darker background.
Exactly. It dramatically boosts the contrast. Without a filter, honestly, you could look right at it under decent skies and see nothing. It just blends in.
So what's the view like with a filter then? What should we expect to see?
With a good filter and maybe around 100x to 150x magnification, you should start to see a faint, uniform, circular glow, like a pale, ghostly disk or ring.
Does the OII make the edge sharper? I think I read that.
Yeah, the OII is often noted as giving a slightly better defined edge to the ring. It might dim the central star a touch too, which can actually help you focus on the nebula itself.
And seeing it isn't just about pointing the scope right. Technique matters.
Oh, completely. This is where averted vision comes in. You absolutely need to use it.
Looking slightly away from the target.
Exactly. Look slightly to the side of where you know Abell 39 should be. Your peripheral vision is way more sensitive to faint light. Stare directly at it, and it might just vanish.
And patience. Lots of patience.
Loads of it. You need to let your eyes fully dark adapt, spend time at the eyepiece, just gently scanning the area, using that averted vision. The longer you look, the more that faint circle seems to kind of materialize out of the darkness.
I've seen some amazing photos showing subtle colors, like a cyan edge and maybe reddish inside. Could you see that visually?
Probably not visually, no. That's usually the realm of long exposure astrophotography. The eye just isn't sensitive enough to pick up those faint color nuances. What you're seeing in photos is real, though it comes from different gases being ionized to different levels by the central star.
And visually, it's mostly that faint, ghostly gray-green glow.
Yeah, typically pale gray, maybe with a hint of green or blue depending on the filter and your own eyes. But the shape, that near-perfect circle, that's what you're hunting for visually.
So, summing up, Abell 39 is definitely not for the faint of heart, astronomically speaking.
Absolutely not. It's a serious challenge, not something you'd show a beginner on their first night out.
But that's kind of the appeal, isn't it?
I think so. It's a true test. It tests your telescope, your filters, your sky conditions, and definitely your observing skills and patience.
So finally spotting it must feel like a real accomplishment.
Oh yeah. If you manage to pull Abell 39 out of the background, you know you've got decent skies, your gear is working well, and crucially, you know what you're doing at the eyepiece. It's confirmation.
There is something quite cool about searching for that faint, almost perfect circle hidden deep in space. It makes you appreciate the subtle details out there.
Finding something so ordered, so symmetrical amidst the, usual cosmic chaos, it takes effort, but it says something about the universe and our ability to perceive these faint whispers of light. It's a rewarding hunt.
Skyscope, challenging targets, real observing.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel for weekly podcasts and more.